back to the course Social Development. I am B. Preeti Meena, Assistant Professor from School of Social Work, Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Today we will be discussing about the Unit 3, Economic Development and Overview. Today we will discuss the concept of economic development, its determinants, barriers and the policies that support. We'll also explore how factors like human capital, infrastructure and technological innovation contribute to development. We'll also look at the impacts of policies like liberalization, privatization and globalization on economic growth. South Korea's focus on industrialization, technological advancement and export-oriented policies transformed it from a developing country in the 1960s into one of the world's leading economies. Meaning and factors of economic development. Economic development involves enhancing a country's standard of living through increased income per capita, productivity and poverty reduction. This process is driven by several key factors. First, we have human capital, where a skilled, educated and healthy workforce significantly improves productivity and drives economic growth. In Singapore invested heavily in human capital by prioritizing education and training. This strategy has led to a highly skilled workforce, which has been a major driver for its economic growth. Infrastructure. Infrastructure is another essential factor in economic development. Reliable infrastructure such as transportation, energy and communication systems is crucial as it enables and enhances economic activities by connecting markets, reducing costs and improving accessibility. China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), this large-scale infrastructure project connects Asia, Europe and Africa through investments in transportation, energy and communication, facilitating trade and economic growth. Technological innovation. Technological innovation also plays a transformative role. New technologies increase efficiency, create new industries and make economies more competitive. Countries that embrace technology tend to see faster growth and development. Silicon Valley, USA, as a hub for technological innovation, Silicon Valley has been pivotal in creating new industries such as information technology that have driven the US economy forward. Investment. Investment in both physical assets and human resources is vital for sustainable economic growth. Investments support long-term economic stability by building the foundation for future growth through better infrastructure, education and workforce skills. Germany's Mittelstand companies, these small and medium-sized businesses are known for their long-term investment in workforce, training and innovation, contributing to Germany's economic stability and growth. Determinants and barriers of economic development. Moving on to the determinants and barriers of economic development. Determinants include political stability, sound economic policies, open markets and access to finance. On the other hand, barriers such as corruption, inequality, environmental degradation and conflict can hinder economic progress. Botswana. Political stability and sound economic policies have allowed Botswana to develop rapidly, overcoming initial barriers like limited infrastructure and a small population. Political stability and good governance. Political stability and good governance are fundamental for economic development. Stable political environments encourage investment, foster trust and enable governments to implement effective policies. Norway. With strong governance and low corruption, Norway provides a stable environment that encourages investment and enables long-term economic planning. Sound economic policies. Economic policies shape the development path of a nation. Policies that support trade, provide incentives for businesses, and ensure market efficiency help create a conducive environment for economic growth. Ireland's pro-business policies, low corporate tax rates and openness to foreign direct investment attracted many multinational corporations, boosting its economy. Open markets and free trade. Open markets and free trade encourage international collaboration, enabling countries to leverage comparative advantages. This leads to increased productivity, innovation, and access to a broader range of goods and services. European Union, the EU, promotes open markets and free trade among its member countries, increasing productivity and providing access to a wider range of goods and services. Access to finance and credit. It is crucial for economic development, particularly for small business and startups. Financial resources allow businesses to expand, innovate, and create jobs, thereby driving economic growth. Microfinance in Bangladesh. Through organizations like Grameen Bank, small-scale financing has enabled entrepreneurs, particularly women, to start businesses, reduce poverty, and contribute to economic growth. Let us understand what are the barriers to economic development. Barriers are like corruption, inequality, environmental changes, and social instability can be detrimental to development. Addressing these barriers is essential to create a more equitable and sustainable growth path. In Venezuela, corruption, economic mismanagement, and social instability have hindered economic development, despite its abundant natural resources. What is new economic policy? Let us understand its meaning and objectives. The new economic policy is a set of strategies aimed at stimulating economic growth through liberalization, privatization, and globalization. The objective is to achieve sustainable growth, create more job opportunities, reduce poverty, and improve living standards. India's 1991 economic reforms. India introduced policies of liberalization, privatization, and globalization to address economic stagnation, leading to rapid economic growth and integration into the global market. Liberalization involves reducing government intervention in the economy to promote free markets and competition. Key features include deregularization, trade liberalization, and privatization, which aim to make markets more efficient and competitive. Vietnam's Doi Moi policy. This policy liberalized Vietnam's economy by opening it up to foreign investment and reducing government control, leading to significant economic growth and poverty reduction. Privatization is the process of transferring government-owned enterprises to private ownership. The objectives are to improve efficiency, boost competitiveness, and reduce public sector debt, allowing the private sector to operate these enterprises more effectively. The UK's privatization in the 1980s privatized many state-owned industries including British Telecom and British Airways, improving efficiency and reducing public sector debt. Globalization. Globalization refers to the process of increasing interconnectedness among nations. It aims to drive economic growth and create jobs by enhancing trade, investment, and collaboration across borders. However, globalization also brings challenges such as inequality and environmental impact. China's entry into the WTO, joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, helped China expand its trades, attract foreign investment, and become a global economic powerhouse, though it has also led to challenges such as income inequality. Let us understand what are the positive impacts of new economic policy. On a positive note, policies like liberalization, privatization, and globalization have created new job opportunities, increased cultural exchange, improved educational access, and led to better wages and working conditions in many sectors. Mexico's participation in NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, created new jobs, increased exports, and boosted wages in Mexico, demonstrating the benefits of trade liberalization. What are the negative impacts of new economic policy? However, these policies also have downsides. Social inequalities have widened, traditional values have been challenged, and there are issues like job displacement and skill mismatches as industries shift due to these policies. Job displacement in the US manufacturing sector. Globalization has led to outsourcing, which resulted in job losses in certain sectors, highlighting the potential downside of trade liberalization. Let us understand liberalization in detail. In the context of social work, liberalization refers to the process of reducing government control over the economy to create a more open market driven system. While it primarily aims to encourage economic efficiency and growth, liberalization can also have significant social implications. Here's a more detailed explanation of liberalization and its features viewed through the lens of social work. Liberalization involves relaxing government regulations in various sectors of the economy such as finance, industry and trade. This shift opens up the economy to competition and private sector participation, which can lead to increased investments, job creation and consumer choices. Liberalization often includes policies like deregulation, reduced tariffs and the removal of restrictions on foreign investments. In social work context, liberalization can influence social welfare by impacting employment, access to resources and economic inequality. For example, while liberalization might boost economic growth, it could also widen the income gap between different social groups, necessitating new approaches in social work to support disadvantaged populations. The features of liberalization in social work context. Economic deregularization. Economic deregulation removes restrictions on business operations, allowing private entities to operate more freely. This can lead to increased economic activity and job creation as businesses have more flexibility to innovate and grow. Social work impact. While deregulation can create job opportunities, it may also lead to labor exploitation as businesses seek to reduce costs. Social workers may be called upon to advocate for fair job practices, support social workers' rights, their employee rights, and provide services to those affected by job insecurity or poor working conditions. Trade liberalization. Reducing tariffs and barriers to trade encourages global commerce, allowing countries to exchange goods and services more freely. This can benefit consumers with lower prices and a wider variety of products. In terms of social work impact, trade liberalization can help reduce poverty by creating job opportunities in export-driven industries. However, it can also threaten local industries that struggle to compete with international companies. Social workers might work with communities affected by industry closures or job losses, providing support and resources to help individuals retrain or transition to new employment sectors. Foreign investment and privatization. Liberalization encourages foreign investments by allowing international companies to enter the market. It often involves privatizing state-owned enterprises, transferring ownership from the public sector to private investors. What is the social work impact in this? Foreign investment can stimulate economic development, but it might also lead to a decrease in publicly funded services. For instance, when essential services like healthcare or education are privatized, access can become unequal, especially for low-income communities. Social workers may need to address these disparities by advocating for affordable services, supporting individuals in navigating private systems, and promoting policies that ensure equitable access. Market competition. Liberalization fosters market competition by reducing monopolies and allowing multiple firms to operate within the same industry. This competition often drives innovation, improves product quality, and lowers prices. The social work impact is increased competition can benefit consumers but may lead to instability in jobs if companies frequently downsize or shift operations to stay competitive. Social workers might work with unemployed or displaced workers, providing counseling, skill development, and resources to find new employment. The shift from welfare state to market oriented policies. Liberalization can shift a country's focus from government provided welfare programs to market oriented solutions where private and non-profit organizations play a larger role in social services. The social work impact in this is that while this can lead to innovation and efficiency, it can also mean that services for vulnerable populations become fragmented or underfunded. Social workers may find themselves advocating for a balance between public welfare and private sector involvement, ensuring that essential services remain accessible to those in need. What are the challenges in liberalization in terms of social work context? Liberalization can sometimes deepen socio-economic inequalities, creating both opportunities and challenges for social workers, such as increased inequality. Liberalization often benefits those with capital and resources, leading to economic and income disparities. Social workers may need to address the needs of marginalized communities disproportionately impacted by economic liberalization. Reduced government spending on welfare. With liberalization, there may be less government spending on social welfare programs as funds are redirected to stimulate economic growth. Social workers might advocate for policies that protect social welfare funding or find creative ways to collaborate with NGOs and private sector partners to fill service gaps. In terms of community displacement, liberalization can lead to rapid urbanization and industrialization, which might displace local communities or disrupt traditional ways of life. Social workers can help individuals and communities adapt by providing relocation support, training programs, and mental health services to cope with these changes. In summary, liberalization can have profound implications for social work by altering the economic landscape and affecting effective service delivery, job stability, and social welfare. Social workers play a vital role in navigating these changes by advocating for equitable policies, supporting those who experience negative effects, and helping communities adapt and thrive within an increasingly liberalized economy. By understanding and responding to the impacts of liberalization, social work professionals can also help foster an inclusive form of economic development that benefits all members of society. Let us understand privatization in detail in terms of meaning, features in social work context. Privatization refers to the process of transferring ownership, management, or control of government-owned services or enterprises to private entities. This shift can involve a full sale of public assets to private investors, outsourcing certain services to private firms, or creating public-private partnership where both sectors share responsibilities. Privatization is often undertaken to improve efficiency, reduce public sector costs, and stimulate competition. In a social work context, privatization can affect various social services such as healthcare, education, welfare programs, and housing by introducing private entities as service providers or partners. The key features of privatization: increased efficiency through market dynamics. Privatization often introduces market competition into sectors traditionally operated by the government. The argument here is that private entities driven by profit motives may have greater incentives to improve service efficiency, reduce operational costs, and eliminate bureaucracy. In terms of social work context, for example, in welfare to work programs, private agencies might be contracted to manage job training and placement services for unemployed individuals. These agencies often have performance-based contracts where their funding depends on meeting employment outcomes, thus incentivizing them to maximize results. Cost reduction and budget relief for governments. By transferring responsibilities to the private sector, governments aim to reduce public spending, especially in large-scale services that require substantial ongoing investments. In terms of social work context, with cost concerns, governments may privatize parts of social welfare programs such as foster care services or mental health facilities. Private agencies might provide specialized cost-effective services while governments allocate resources to other areas. However, if costs are cut too sharply, the quality of services provided may suffer, affecting vulnerable populations. Enhanced focus on specialized services. Private providers can offer expertise and innovation in specific service areas. By focusing on specialized care, private entities can address needs that are complex or underserved in traditional public frameworks. In terms of social work context, in mental health services, for instance, privatized facilities or partnership with non-profits can offer specialized treatments for specific conditions. Example, addiction recovery programs that public hospitals may lack the resources or expertise to handle. This allows clients to access more tailored services. Flexibility in service delivery. Private organizations typically have more flexibility to adapt programs and services to changing needs. This can mean quicker response times and the ability to innovate with service delivery models. In social work context, homeless services, for instance, may be privatized to non-profits or private agencies that can quickly implement new housing models like housing first programs without waiting for government approvals. These agencies often bring unique, adaptive solutions that align more closely with the immediate needs of clients. Accountability and performance-based contracts. Many privatized services operate on performance-based contracts, meaning private providers are funded based on achieving specific outcomes or standards. In social work context, for instance, private agencies managing rehabilitation programs may be paid based on participant recovery rates or reintegration success, theoretically ensuring accountability and encouraging high quality care. However, this can also lead to challenges as organizations may prioritize easily achievable metrics rather than addressing complex client needs that require intensive long-term support. Potential for inequality in service access. One major concern with privatization is that services might prioritize profitably over universal access, potentially leading to unequal access or reduced services for disadvantaged groups. In the realm of healthcare, in terms of social work context, privatization might mean that certain high-cost, complex services like specialized mental health care become inaccessible to lower economic clients due to increased costs or limited availability. This can result in a dual system where only those with means receive comprehensive care while others receive minimal or insufficient services. What are the implications of privatization in social work context? First one is challenges to accessibility and equity. Privatization can create barriers to access, particularly if private agencies prioritize clients who can pay or if they reduce services to save costs. For social workers, this may mean encountering clients who struggle to access essential services or fall through the cracks in a privatized system. ethical concerns and profit versus service mission. Social work is inherently rooted in values of social justice, equality and support for vulnerable populations. When services are privatized, the profit motive can sometimes conflict with these values. Social workers may face ethical dilemmas if their agency privatizes revenue over client care or pressurizes them to focus on profitable services at the expense of less marketable needs. The third one is collaboration and advocacy role for social workers. Privatization also opens up opportunities for social workers to collaborate with private entities and advocate for policies that ensure private providers remain accountable to community needs. Social workers can play a critical role in bridging the gap between the clients and private providers by helping clients navigate privatized systems and advocating for fair, client-centered policies. Impact on service quality and innovation. While privatization can lead to improvements in service quality through innovation and specialized care, it can also lead to lower standards if profit margins are prioritized. Social workers can influence quality by advocating for client-centered performance metrics that focus on client well-being rather than easily measurable short-term outcomes. In summary, while privatization can bring efficiency, flexibility and specialization to social services, it requires careful consideration in social work to ensure that vulnerable populations are not overlooked and that the fundamental values of social justice are upheld. Social workers play an important role in ensuring that privatized services remain accessible, equitable and responsive to the needs of those they serve. Let us understand the globalization. Globalization, its features, purpose and effects in the social work context. It is the process by which nations, cultures and economies become increasingly interconnected, largely driven by trade, technology, communication and migration. This interconnectedness brings both opportunities and challenges to social work by reshaping social needs, introducing new social issues and necessitating cross-border approaches to welfare and human rights. In the context of social work, globalization influences how social issues are addressed, the diversity of client populations and the collaboration between international agencies. The key features of globalization in social work context. The first one is increased cross-cultural interaction. Globalization brings diverse population into closer contact, whether through migration, international labor markets or cultural exchange. Social workers increasingly serve diverse multicultural communities. This requires cultural competence, multilingual services and sensitivity to varying cultural norms, especially when working with immigrant and refugee populations. Global networks and international collaboration. Under this, globalization promotes international collaboration between governments, NGOs and advocacy groups to address shared social challenges like poverty, human trafficking and climate change. In social work context, social workers participate in global networks to address cross-border issues. For instance, organizations like UNICEF and the International Federation of Social Workers work on international policy and provide resources to tackle global issues such as child protection and refugee welfare. Technological advancements and digital connectivity. Advances in technology and digital communication enable real-time information sharing and resource distribution on a global scale. Social workers can now use digital platforms to access international research, share best practices and provide virtual services to clients. This has made remote counseling and virtual support groups possible. expanding service access for individuals in remote or underserved areas. Global labor market and migration trends. Globalization has resulted in increased migration for work, education and safety, leading to a more mobile workforce. In terms of social work context, social workers frequently work with the migrant population who may face unique challenges like language barriers, discrimination, and unstable legal statuses. Global migration trends also influence social policies as workers advocate for the rights and welfare of migrant families and individuals. Increased awareness of global social issues. With easier access to global information, there is increased awareness of international social issues such as climate change, inequality, and human rights abuses. In terms of social work context, social workers are now more aware of global issues that impact local communities such as human trafficking and environmental displacement. This awareness drives advocacy work and policy initiatives aimed at tackling these issues locally and globally. Purpose of globalization in social work context. The first one is promoting social justice and human rights. One of the core purpose of globalization in social work is to promote social justice and human rights universally, ensuring that all people, regardless of nationality, have access to fundamental protections. Globalization allows social workers to advocate for universal human rights standards. Through international platforms, they campaign against issues like forced labor, child exploitation, and gender-based violence, striving to improve human rights protections worldwide. The second one is addressing transnational social problems. Many social issues such as migration, poverty, and trafficking are no longer confined to single nations, requiring a global approach. Social workers collaborate internationally to address these transnational issues. For example, organizations work together to provide relief and support to refugees fleeing conflict zones or to rehabilitate victims of human trafficking. The third one is enhancing resource sharing and knowledge exchange. Globalization facilitates the sharing of resources, research and practices that improve social services and professional standards across countries. Social workers benefit from access to global research, evidence-based practices and training resources. This exchange of knowledge enhances professional development and helps social workers deliver more effective services. The fourth one is improving economic opportunities and reducing poverty. By fostering economic integration, globalization aims to improve economic stability, create jobs and reduce poverty worldwide. Economic globalization affects social work by influencing employment opportunities and income levels. Social workers address the needs of people affected by economic shifts, such as workers who lose jobs due to outsourcing and advocate for equitable economic policies. What are the effects of globalization in social work context? Broadened scope of social work practice. Social work practice has expanded to address international issues such as asylum seeker rights, environmental justice, and the impact of global health crisis. Global issues like climate change induced displacement have broadened the social work focus. Social workers address both immediate and long-term impacts on affected populations, providing services to climate refugees and advocating their policies to combat environmental inequality. The second one is increased demand for cultural competence. With increased diversity, social workers might be culturally aware and sensitive to the diverse backgrounds and values of their clients. Serving multicultural communities requires skills in cultural competence. Social workers must understand cultural backgrounds, address language needs, and ensure services are respectful of cultural differences to foster trust and effectiveness in diverse communities. The third one is emergence of global ethical standards. As social worker and social work goes global, there is a push for universal ethical standards to guide practices across different cultural and national contexts. The International Federation of Social Workers has developed a global code of ethics guiding social workers in maintaining standards of respect, equality, and social justice worldwide. This helps align social work values despite cultural differences. The challenges in managing economic displacement. Globalization can lead to economic displacement, especially when industries shift due to global market demands, affecting employment stability in local communities. Social workers often assist individuals and families impacted by these economic shifts, such as factory closures or outsourcing. They provide job retraining programs, counseling, and support for financial stability, and advocate for policies that protect displaced workers. The fifth one is increased collaboration for crisis response. Globalization allows for quicker collaborative responses to crises, including natural disasters, pandemics, and humanitarian emergencies. In social work context, during crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, social workers collaborated with international organizations to address urgent needs such as mental health support, healthcare access, and economic relief, adapting to both local and global challenges. The challenges in globalization for social work: balancing local and global perspectives. Global social work must navigate the balance between universal social justice standards and the unique needs of local communities. Social workers must understand both local context and global influences to provide relevant services. Managing inequality and marginalization. While globalization can promote economic growth, it can also exaggerate inequality. Social workers face the challenge of advocating for marginalized population who may be left behind or disadvantaged by global economic trends. Advocating for ethical practices amid profit motives. In a globalized economy, profit-driven motives can sometimes conflict with social justice. Social workers play a role in ensuring that human rights are prioritized over commercial interests, especially when dealing with issues like labor rights and corporate responsibility. In summary, globalization reshapes social work by expanding its scope, requiring a multicultural approach and necessitating collaborative efforts to address transnational issues. Social workers play an essential role in responding to both the opportunities and challenges posed by globalization, advocating for social justice, protecting human rights, and promoting equitable access to resources worldwide. In conclusion, economic development is a complex process influenced by various factors, policies, and challenges. While policies such as liberalization, privatization, and globalization can drive growth, they must be managed carefully to ensure that the benefits are widely distributed and that negative impacts are minimized. Thank you for listening and your attention. I look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you.